Let's say you're in the gym, you hit your first working set. How long are you resting in between sets? Are you making sure that you are properly energized for your next set and that you're not depleting your energy reserves? What happens when you are pressed for time and you don't want to rest too much between sets, but you need that 2, 3, maybe even 4 minutes between sets? I'm here to help you figure out the answer to those questions. I want you to understand how long of a rest is needed in between sets for specific goals. So let's say if you're going for maximum strength, if you're trying to gain size, if you're trying to improve your conditioning, I want you to understand how you can use your rest periods in between sets as a variable to help you improve upon your lifting and to help you get to your goals that much faster. So let's go over the most important part about why rest periods are important, which is we need rest periods in order to allow our body to recover in between sets so that we can keep on performing. Clearly, if we can go to the gym and just do as many reps as possible for unlimited amount of reps with a shitload of weight, then we would have no need for rest periods. But our body gets depleted of our energy stores and we need to rest in between sets so that those energy stores can get replenished between sets. And then that way, when we restart the set, no matter how long that is, maybe that's a minute, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes plus, we have enough energy in our muscles to allow our muscles to actually move a heavy load. And you will notice that if you do have shorter rest periods than you're used to, you'll notice that your performance most likely is going to decline. We're going to get over particular rest periods depending on your goals later on in this video. Let's go over how long your rest periods need to be depending on what your particular goals are. We'll talk about 3 main goals today. The main goals that I usually talk about, which is going to be strength, building muscle, and conditioning. You can probably guess that if you are really going after strength and if you've tried lifting heavy weights before, you generally want to take a longer rest period in between sets. So the general rule of thumb is anywhere between, I would say, 3 to 5 minutes is really good. Usually the closer to your 1 rep max that you're working, the longer those rest periods need to be. And if obviously during your warm-up sets, if you're ramping up in weight and adding weight more and more, you can just kind of do a set, throw on a little bit of more weight, do it again with maybe a minute, 30 seconds rest. Doesn't really matter quite that much because you're just trying to warm up. You're not necessarily caring too much about replenishing your energy stores. Now for hypertrophy, this can be the area that can allow you a lot of variability. If you're on more of a power building program where you're trying to get stronger and build size, you can still kind of lean more towards that longer rest period range. You probably don't necessarily need to be doing 5 minutes on a regular basis because your rep range should be a little bit higher where you're not necessarily going to your 1 rep range. You're staying more in that 5 rep range, maybe going up a little bit to 8 or so. So your rest period, you can still go, maybe 2 to 3 minutes is good. But some of the exercise that you're going to be doing, you're probably going to be lighter weight. So depending on your rep range, you can use that as a general rule of thumb for determining your rest periods. The higher rep range you're doing basically means you're doing a lower percentage of your 1 rep max. And that means you can take lower rest periods. If you're on like a pure hypertrophy program where you're maybe lifting over 10 reps on everything, you can probably decrease that rest period down even more. Anywhere between say 60 to 120 seconds is a very good start. Now, when it comes to conditioning, this is where things are very simple. With conditioning, the way I look at it is I'm looking for people to elevate their heart rates and I'm looking for people to improve their recovery. So I want them to have their heart rate go from a high number to a low number in as fast as a time as possible. So this means that during your recovery, I like to usually use what's called active recovery, meaning there isn't any actual full recovery. Like let's say you do a heavy set of deadlifts and maybe you're warming up to do your 1 rep max. You do 1 set before your 1 rep max, you rest for 4 or 5 minutes, you're sitting down, just hanging out, maybe shooting the shit with your friends, and then bang, 5 minutes later, you do your set. Now, when it comes to conditioning, that's not something that we're looking for. For me, I like to do very short rest periods generally. Usually, this is only gonna last a maximum of 3 minutes, and that's active rest. So active rest means you're doing a much lower intensity exercise than what the actual exercise that you're doing is to increase your heart rate. So let's say you're doing sled pushes and then during your active rest you're maybe doing just walking Or if you're doing something that keeps your heart rate a little bit lower, then maybe you would do something a little bit harder for your active rest, like jump rope. It all depends on, you know, your goals and how fit you are and how athletically inclined you are. So you probably have a question for me now, and that is, okay, look, Kyle, I'm trying to get strong, but I don't have 2 hours to be in the gym. I can't be waiting around for 3, 4, 5 minutes per exercise, and I want to get through, you know, maybe 6+ exercises. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's going to be what's called alternating sets. So alternating sets aren't to be confused with supersets or giant sets. Alternating sets are basically when you're going to do one exercise, you're going to rest a very short period of time, like anywhere between, say, 30 to 90 seconds, do a different exercise that stresses a completely different movement pattern or muscle group, and then come back to it. So with a superset and like a triple set or giant sets, you're going bang, 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 no rest at all in between. With an alternating set, you do one exercise, you take a little bit of a rest, do another exercise, take another little bit of a rest, and do that original exercise. So with this, you're still getting that long period of rest where, you know, maybe you're resting 2 to 4 minutes in between your sets, but you're actually doing another exercise in between there. So you're basically killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and you're doing twice as much work in the same amount of time. So I suggest this for pretty much every exercise, even the really, really hard ones like lifting, bench pressing, squatting. Depending on what day you're doing, if you know, if it's 1 rep max day and you're just training for a meet or whatever, then who cares about everything else. But during your regular training, when you're going through just your normal training cycles, I highly recommend that you be alternating exercises and even adding, you know, a 3rd or 4th in there every now and then. A couple quick examples. So if we're deadlifting, the deadlift is like a full body movement, but what are the muscle groups that are stressed the most? Generally, it's the posterior chain, so our glutes, our hamstrings, our back, our traps. So things like upper back movements are good. I've always been a fan of pairing chin-ups with deadlifts. I've always found that really good. Clearly, you're going to want to stay away from any movement like bent over rows. That's already going to put more stress on your low back. You can do a lot of pushing exercises, overhead work, bench press work is also a good alternate. For squatting, basically any upper body movement works to alternate with squatting. And then for bench pressing, I like just doing any type of pull, whether that's like a vertical pull like a chin-up or a horizontal pull like a row. And then if you can also do lower body exercises with your bench press as well. So now you know how long you have to rest between your sets depending on what your goals are. Now you can use that directly in your programming or whatever program you're using now or whatever program you want to use in the future to help kind of formulate your own rest periods so that you're able to hit your goals and you're able to get some work done in the gym, because going to the gym and, you know, spending just a couple minutes doing work and the rest resting isn't necessarily always doing work. You should be in there moving around, getting work done, getting shit done, and becoming a better lifter, stronger lifter, and one who can use technique better. If learning more about general programming is something that interests you, I'm going to put a link down below that's going to link you up with 8 free programs that I've created. I got a beginner and intermediate programs for a couple different goals, such as power building and conditioning, a couple other ones as well. And that comes along with a guide that covers things like rest periods, covers things like how to warm up, what weights to use, and a lot of other information. So just click the link below. It's completely free, and I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns on the video, please just hit me in the comment section below. I answer every question. If you haven't subscribed to me already and you enjoy my videos, just hit that subscribe button. Got a lot more coming to you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Later.